The IJN Yudachi was a destroyer in the Imperial Japanese Navy, IJN, during World War II. A member of the Shiratsuyu class, she was one of the more prominent destroyers in the fleet and was notably active in the Pacific Theater. The ship's development, operational history, and ultimate fate are illustrative of the broader role of IJN destroyers in World War II. Development and design. The Yudachi was part of the Shiratsuyu-class destroyers, which were a subclass of the earlier Hatsuharu class. The Shiratsuyu-class ships were designed to fulfill a multi-role capability, excelling in both torpedo and gun combat while maintaining the high speed and agility needed to escort larger ships and conduct night attacks. Built under the 1931-1934 naval expansion program, these destroyers were slightly heavier and better armed than their predecessors. Yudachi's design was a balance of firepower and maneuverability. With a displacement of 1,710 tons at full load, she measured 107.5 meters in length and featured a beam of 9.9 meters. Her armament consisted of 5 127mm Type 3 naval guns, supplemented by a set of powerful 610mm Type 93 Long Lance torpedoes. The Long Lance torpedoes were a revolutionary weapon at the time, being able to travel long distances at high speeds with minimal wake, giving Japanese destroyers a distinct advantage in night battles. Construction and commissioning. Yudachi was laid down at the Sasebo Naval Arsenal on October 16, 1934, launched on June 21, 1936, and commissioned into service on January 7, 1937. The destroyer's name, Yudachi, translates to evening squall, a poetic reference to sudden, intense rainstorms, and was in line with the tradition of naming Japanese destroyers after weather phenomena. After commissioning, Yudachi joined Destroyer Division 2 of the Second Fleet, pre-war service. In the years leading up to World War II, Yudachi was engaged in routine fleet exercises and patrols, which primarily involved honing the night-fighting capabilities that the IJN valued so highly. During the late 1930s and the early phases of the Sino-Japanese War, she served in operations around the Chinese coast, supporting troop landings and protecting Japanese supply lines. Yudachi's early experience in these smaller-scale conflicts provided her crew with valuable combat experience. World War II service. With the outbreak of war in the Pacific in December 1941, Yudachi was thrust into frontline service as part of the 2nd Destroyer Division of the 7th Destroyer Squadron. Her early war operations included escorting carriers during the attack on Pearl Harbor and supporting invasions in the Philippines and Dutch East Indies. As the war progressed, Yudachi took part in several key engagements, demonstrating the versatility and firepower of the Shiratsuyu class. Battle of the Java Sea, February 1942. Yudachi was heavily involved in the Battle of the Java Sea, where she and her fellow destroyers played a crucial role in the annihilation of Allied naval forces. Japanese destroyers, led by Yudachi and her sister ships, launched successful torpedo attacks against British and Dutch ships, contributing to the sinking of several major enemy vessels. This battle underscored the effectiveness of the IJN's tactics and the potency of their torpedoes. Guadalcanal Campaign, 1942. Yudachi's most notable period of action came during the Guadalcanal Campaign. As part of the Tokyo Express, Yudachi was frequently tasked with high-speed transport runs, delivering troops, supplies, and reinforcements to the beleaguered Japanese forces on Guadalcanal. The Tokyo Express missions were high risk due to the constant presence of U.S. Navy forces. However, the IJN's reliance on night operations and their destroyers' superior torpedo technology made these missions feasible. Battle of Cape Esperance, October 1942. During the Battle of Cape Esperance, Yudachi was engaged in a chaotic night surface engagement with American cruisers and destroyers. Though Yudachi managed to launch a series of torpedo attacks, the Japanese forces were caught by surprise and suffered losses. Yudachi herself survived the engagement, but several other ships in her division were not as fortunate. Battle of Guadalcanal and sinking, November 1942. Yudachi's fate was sealed during the First Naval Battle of Guadalcanal on November 13, 1942. The engagement was part of a larger effort by the Japanese to bombard Henderson Field, the key American airfield on Guadalcanal, and reinforce their beleaguered garrison. During this chaotic night battle, Yudachi and her squadron encountered a mixed force of U.S. cruisers and destroyers. Yudachi initially performed well, launching torpedoes and engaging American destroyers. She reportedly damaged the USS Barton with a well-placed torpedo. However, as the battle progressed, Yudachi came under heavy fire. She was hit multiple times by gunfire from U.S. ships, which disabled her engines and left her drifting. In a final act of defiance, her crew abandoned ship as the crippled destroyer lay helpless. U.S. destroyer USS Portland then approached and hit Yudachi with a series of gun salvos, causing a massive explosion that sank the ship. Her loss marked the end of a valiant and active career. Out of her 197 crew members, around 50 were lost with the ship, while the remaining survivors were rescued by other Japanese ships. Legacy and impact. The story of the IJN Yudachi is emblematic of the IJN's destroyer forces, bold, agile, and heavily armed, but ultimately stretched thin by the demands of the Pacific War. Yudachi's career, particularly her role in the Tokyo Express and the Guadalcanal campaign, showcases the strategic and tactical importance of destroyers in night battles and as torpedo platforms. The Evening Squall fought with tenacity in a losing war, and her ultimate fate at Guadalcanal was a microcosm of the broader naval struggle between Japan and the United States. Yudachi's participation in these intense and often desperate battles left an impression on both sides. To the Americans, she became a symbol of the fierce tenacity of Japanese destroyer tactics. To the Japanese, her loss was a sobering reminder of the limitations of their forces when faced with growing U.S. naval superiority and attrition. In 1943, the IJN officially struck Yudachi from the Naval Register. Today, Yudachi is remembered for her contributions to the Imperial Japanese Navy's war effort and as a testament to the courage and resilience of her crew during some of the most ferocious naval battles of the Pacific War.